What if the car in your garage is already on its way out? And the brand hasn't told you a thing. Sales are plummeting, dealerships are empty, models are disappearing one by one, and owners are left to fend for themselves with cars no one wants to buy. Today on Autostop, I'm going to reveal the 5 car brands that are on the verge of collapse, along with the scandals behind their downfall and the mistakes that led them to lose billions of dollars. And be warned, because if you own a car from any of these brands, you could be about to lose money, spare parts, resale value, and service. The most shocking thing is that the #1 brand is still selling strong, but internally it's in total crisis. It's drowning in debt and losses. So stick around until the end, because what you're about to hear is something no dealership will tell you. Subscribe so you don't miss our next videos, and share this one in your groups so more people can find out what's really happening in the industry. Welcome to Autostop. Number 5. Let's start with a brand no one expected to see on this list, a brand that was born to be Korean luxury, and ended up as an expensive experiment that never quite took off. I'm talking about Genesis, the supposed jewel of the Hyundai Group, created to compete against giants like Lexus, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. On paper, the idea sounded perfect: cars with stunning designs, top-notch interiors, and prices much lower than the competition. But there's a problem: luxury buyers aren't looking for discounts, they're looking for status. And that's where Genesis stumbled badly. Even though its models look elegant and packed with technology, for many luxury drivers, Genesis still feels like a Hyundai dressed up in an expensive suit. A new logo isn't enough to convince those who pay for prestige. Look at the numbers. In 2024, Genesis sold 75,000 cars in the United States. It sounds good until you compare it to BMW's 362,000 units, Mercedes 282,000, or Lexus 319,000. It's like watching a small fish trying to swim with sharks. And the worst part is, it's still fighting for recognition, not leadership. Why? Because trust is waning. In 2022, Genesis had to recall more than 95,000 vehicles due to engine problems and serious electrical failures. Models like the G80, GB60, and GB70 were recalled for fuel pump failures that could cause the vehicle to stall completely while in motion. Imagine driving down the highway and your luxury car simply shuts off. For a brand that seeks prestige, that's a devastating blow. Because if there's one thing that destroys a luxury brand, it's losing customer trust. And when a brand loses trust, it loses resale value. Today, used Genesis cars are depreciating faster than many Chinese cars. And that says a lot. And if you're still not convinced of how badly the brand is doing, let's talk about the buyer's experience. Genesis promised an exclusive experience, with luxurious showrooms, personalized service, a premium atmosphere, but in practice, most of its cars are sold within Hyundai dealerships. In other words, the customer who wants to feel like a VIP ends up having coffee next to someone looking at an Elantra. That's Genesis's problem: lots of marketing, little substance. And if it doesn't change its strategy soon, it will suffer the same fate as other luxury brands that promised the moon and crashed to earth. So, if you're thinking about buying a Genesis, think twice. Because a brand without identity, that's losing value, and that doesn't know how to take care of its customers, is just one step away from bankruptcy. And wait, because the next brand on the list surprised even me. I didn't expect it to be here. Number 4. We continue with a brand that, for many, was synonymous with respect, power, and glory. The one that once dominated the world's rallies, the one that gave us true legends like the Lancer Evolution and the Montero, but which today, is barely hanging on. I'm talking about Mitsubishi, a Japanese brand that was once a giant, but is now desperately fighting to avoid disappearing. In 2024, Mitsubishi sold a mere 19,843 vehicles in the United States, a brutal drop compared to previous years. And the worst came at the beginning of 2025, when a new U.S. tariff completely paralyzed deliveries, leaving thousands of units stranded at ports. Dealerships were left without product, buyers without cars, and the brand, without direction. Today, Mitsubishi's lineup is disheartening. The best-selling budget Mirage is gone. And what remains? the Outlander Sport, and the Eclipse Cross, are failing to take off in sales. Not even the Outlander, with its redesign and engine shared with Nissan, has managed to win over the public. The competition surpassed it in every way: better interiors, better engines, and above all, a better reputation. Because yes, and it must be said, Mitsubishi has been losing consumer trust for years. In 2016, the brand admitted to falsifying fuel consumption data in more than 600,000 cars. This sparked an international scandal, police raids, executive resignations, multi-million-dollar lawsuits, and a precipitous drop in its stock price. And if you think that was its only mistake, you're wrong. Before that, Mitsubishi had already faced accusations of covering up serious mechanical defects in Japan, something that further destroyed its credibility. The situation was so critical that Nissan had to buy 34% of Mitsubishi to keep it afloat. Basically, they artificially resurrected it. And the most painful thing about all this is that the owners, the true Mitsubishi fans, are feeling it. They're talking about CVT transmission failures, suspension problems, cheap interior materials, and build quality that's a far cry from the Mitsubishi we knew in the 1990s. Many of us hate to say it, but Mitsubishi has gone from being a brand synonymous with affordable reliability to one that can drain your wallet with parts and repairs. Today, experts describe it as a brand without identity, without vision, and with a lineup that doesn't excite anyone. Its name carries weight, but its cars no longer do. And if you think Mitsubishi is in bad shape, wait until you see what's coming, because we've already entered the top 3 brands that have hit rock bottom. Number 3. In this spot, we have a legend that once embodied American prestige, classic luxury, and the comfort of executives and presidents. A name that carried weight, that commanded respect. But today, that grandeur is crumbling. I'm talking about Lincoln, Ford's luxury division, which is experiencing its worst years. For decades, owning a Lincoln was a symbol of success. It was the car of movies, of politicians, of wealthy families. But time marches on, and Lincoln failed to evolve. Today, the luxury market is ruthless, and while BMW, Lexus, and Cadillac are advancing, Lincoln is falling behind. And the decline has a name: reliability. Owners are reporting problems everywhere. Air suspension failures that transform a smooth ride into a nightmare. Engines with coolant and oil leaks, overheating, loss of power, and the transmissions, well, that's another story. The Lincoln MKZ, for example, is known for its jerky and erratic shifts, and the Navigator, which should be its crown jewel, suffers from transmission slippage that ruins the driving experience. And if you add electrical problems to the mix, things get even worse. From faulty wiring to infotainment systems that freeze or simply stop working. Imagine paying over $70,000 for a luxury SUV, and having to turn it off and on again just to get the screen working. The air conditioning is also a disaster. Many owners complain of constant failures that render the system unusable in the middle of summer. And that's not all. The legendary town car, once America's most reliable luxury sedan, now suffers from problems with spark plugs that pop out and suspensions that collapse over time. And as if that weren't enough, the Takata airbag scandal continues to haunt the brand. Thousands of vehicles still haven't been replaced, leaving many drivers behind the wheel of literally dangerous cars. But perhaps the worst part isn't the defects, but the complete loss of relevance. Lincoln has become a forgotten brand. Young people don't want it. No one dreams of owning a Lincoln. In a market where Lexus, BMW, and Audi dominate luxury, Lincoln seems like a relic stuck in the 1990s. Today, Consumer Reports ranks it 24th in overall reliability, an embarrassing position for a brand that once set the standard for American luxury. If Lincoln doesn't change course, if it doesn't repair its cars and its image, it risks becoming just another ghost of the industry, remembered only for what it was, and not for what it is. Because in the world of automotive luxury, prestige alone doesn't pay for repairs. Number 2. Now let me show you a brand that was a favorite of thousands of families, one that once dominated the streets with style, power, and elegance. But today, it's dying. I'm talking about Chrysler, the brand that was once the undisputed sales leader, and that now barely survives thanks to a single model. At its peak, back in 2005, Chrysler sold more than 600,000 cars in the United States. It was a powerhouse, a brand that inspired confidence and prestige. But recently, in 2024, the story changed completely. Just 125,000 vehicles sold, an 80% drop. One of the most brutal and heartbreaking declines in modern automotive history. The problem isn't just sales, but identity. The Chrysler 300, its iconic sedan, died in 2023. Production ceased. And with it went one of the few models that kept the essence of the brand alive. The Voyager became a fleet vehicle, destined for rentals and corporate transportation, and the Pacifica, the only truly consumer-oriented model still standing, is losing ground at an alarming rate. Pacifica sales fell 11% in 2024, while competitors like the Toyota Sienna and Kia Carnival lured away its customers with newer, better-equipped, and more reliable products. And if you were hoping for an electric renaissance with the Chrysler Airflow EV, forget it. Stellantis canceled the project in mid-2024. They said it was too expensive, and worse, that it was already obsolete before it even hit the market. Do you know what that means? That Chrysler has run out of future, literally. It has no new models, no launches, no excitement. It's living on borrowed time. And it's not just a saying that. Carlos Tavares, CEO of Stellantis, himself warned in 2024 that several of the group's brands could disappear before 2026. And guess which one is on that list? That's right, Chrysler. But that's not all. The brand's dealerships are falling one after another. One of the largest in the United States collapsed due to a fraud scandal, leaving hundreds of customers without money or titles. And another major dealership couldn't repay a $4.5 million loan, another blow to a sales network that's already faltering. Chrysler, the brand that gave us iconic cars, is now a shadow of its former self. And the saddest part is what this means for its owners: a brutal drop in resale value, scarce spare parts, and the very real fear of being left with a vehicle abandoned by its own manufacturer. If it weren't for the Pacifica, Chrysler would already be gone. But even that's temporary, because the competition isn't going to let up. And if this seems serious, prepare for what's coming. The brand that holds the #1 spot proves that not even giants are safe. Because in the automotive industry, the fall can come faster than you think. Number 1. That's right, we've reached the top spot, one that many didn't expect to see here, but the numbers and the scandals don't lie. I'm talking about the Japanese giant Nissan, a brand that for decades was synonymous with excellence, reliability, and Japanese power, and which today is in danger of extinction. Yes, you heard right. Nissan, the same brand that dominated roads around the world with iconic models like the Sentra, the Altima, the Patrol, and the Frontier, is experiencing one of the darkest moments in its history. In 2024, global sales reached 850,000 units. Sounds good, right? But when you look more closely, you realize that things are bad, very bad. The Nissan Maxima, one of its flagship sedans, plummeted with a 90% drop in sales. The Altima is following the same path, and the worst part is that the losses are no longer measured in cars, but in billions. Nissan expects to lose $5.3 billion globally, with $3.5 billion of that figure vanishing in the United States alone in 2024. This isn't just a run of bad luck, it's the result of years of poor decisions. In 2024, Nissan attempted a merger with Honda, a move that would have created the world's third-largest automaker. But the deal fell through because Honda demanded complete control. Since then, Nissan has been adrift, desperately seeking alliances. Stellantis, Foxconn, even BYD. But none have materialized. Meanwhile, they've closed plants, laid off 9,000 employees, and canceled 2 electric vehicles that would have been key to their future in the coming years. And that's another major problem. Nissan doesn't have a solid plan for the electric era. While Toyota, Hyundai, and BYD are pouring millions into hybrids and electric vehicles, Nissan seems to have fallen asleep at the wheel. There are no new models, no innovation, no strategy. And if you think all this started recently, you're wrong. The cracks have been there for years. In 2018, its then CEO, Carlos Ghosn, was arrested for hiding millions and using company funds as his personal bank. The story was so absurd it seemed like something out of a movie. Ghosn escaped from Japan hidden in a musical instrument case. His escape exposed the internal chaos Nissan had tried to conceal for years. After that, the scandals didn't stop. In 2020, the brand admitted to manipulating emissions and fuel consumption tests, and that completely destroyed trust. Today, internal sources are clear: if Nissan doesn't achieve a profound restructuring or a strong partner, it only has 12 to 14 months before a possible financial collapse. And yes, I'm being blunt because the signs are there. Sales are plummeting, the reputation is in tatters, and dealerships are closing. What was once a Japanese legend is now a brand losing the battle against time. Let's hope Nissan can turn things around, but the reality is very different now. So if you're thinking about buying a car from any of these brands, think carefully and make an informed decision. Because choosing the wrong brand today could cost you thousands of dollars tomorrow. And wait, because I also made a video for you featuring the 5 2027 Mercedes-Benz models. These are the models that are giving luxury brands a run for their money. Click here and learn how this brand is making one of the biggest impacts on the industry.